right. Mehdi, can I ask you a favor?
Yes, sure.
All right, so I want to start with just a short little dhikr of the La ilaha illallah, but I want someone to keep the rhythm going at a certain pace. Can you do that?
I can try my best.
Yeah, you can do it.
Let's do it.
You just come sit next to me here. So the idea of this dhikr, the way it's done, we did it the other day together, is that it's a recitation of saying La ilaha illallah over and over again, just for a few minutes. And then I'll sing above it, but I'm singing at the rhythm of the dhikr itself. So it's like the dhikr becomes kind of like a heartbeat, a drum beat, and then the singing is floating on top of it to the same cadence, the same rhythm. So you got that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so when we start that dhikr, you keep it going when I start singing.
Okay.
And be strong if you need to, okay? Because there's a lot of wayward sort of energies
Okay.
in all of us. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta 'alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله الله لا إله إلا 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 الله لا إله لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله illallah, la ilaha 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 illallah. يا طالب الفنا في لا الله الله كل دائما الله 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 ونغب فيه أنا سواه الله الله واشهد بقلبك الله 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 واجمعهم معك فيه الله الله تكفى به عن غير الله 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 وكن عبدا صرفا له الله الله تكن حرا عن غير الله 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 وخدى له وتذلى الله الله تفوز بسر من الله 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 وذكر بجد وصدق الله الله بين يدي عبيد الله 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 وقتهم إذا تجلى لك الله الله بأنوار من ذات الله 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 فغير عندنا محال الله الله فوجود حق لله الله الله ووامك دائما الله الله بتوحيد صرف لله الله الله فودعت في لتبدو الله الله في أول ذكر لله الله 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 يا مولانا الله 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 يا مولانا الله الله أنا لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله 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 أنا لا إله إلا الله 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 أنا لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله breath الله لا إله إلا 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 الله لا إلا الله لا إلا الله لا إلا الله لا إله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So gemstones. Something incredibly special in all the things in Allah's creation. There's no doubt about it. Gemstones have their own sort of sphere of connectivity to us. There isn't a culture or any people anywhere that have a tradition where they use the gemstones in healing, and not just to adore themselves, or adorn themselves rather, but a connectivity which goes deeper than just the adornment. And if you look at in the history of gemstones, from Ayurvedic background to the Persian system of healing and gemstones, the Tibetan system of gemstone healing, the Aboriginal people for gemstone healing, you find a thread of commonality, a recognition of the healing and energetic and therefore / spiritual, because it's about this energetic reality of gemstones. And it's amazing how you find, if you go to the Aboriginal American Indian, and I always feel a little bad saying Indian, but they're not Indians, you know. They're not American either. But the people, the indigenous people, I'll call it, that's better. Yeah. They're real, truly. Allah. That you find, for instance, turquoise, right? Turquoise to the Aboriginal people of America is used for the cure for melancholy. You know, and this is turquoise. You see, I wear this ring because I'm always in need for a cure for melancholy. So, you know, and you look at it and they have a deep tradition about that. They wear it in necklaces, they wear it in rings, headbands, so on, and they wear it in colors that they paint their tents, and especially their ritual tents. They have turquoise for people to go in to be exposed to the therapy of that color and that stone. You go to the Tibetans, they have the same thing. The Tibetans, if you look at their jewelry and their adornments of their sacred places and temples, you find a prolific color of turquoise. You go to the Persians, where this is from, Isfahan, and this then is transmitted from the Tibba Nibawi, the healing art from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Tibba Yunani, which is from the Greek. And of course, when it comes to Persia, because Persia was the world at one point, its tentacles stretched from Africa to China, to the borders of China. So you had this kind of collection and agreement and recognition all the way through. And these were also in cultures that not necessarily met each other, but it was discovered by themselves. Now this is a point that I want to underscore here, because this is what you see following through to all science and knowledge of gemstone and gemstone healing and energy, using it for energy and resonance. But I want to now just dive a little deeper here about why is it that gemstones have this, we're compelled toward gemstones. And what is it that specifically, sometimes on an individual basis, that we find ourselves resonating with particular gemstones at given different times of our lives? And I've come up with, when I reflected on this, that's the real background of everything right there. When I resonate and considered with why is it the case that we're all resonating with these gemstones is that I looked at the mithal, the metaphor of creation. So let kind of go with me on this a bit. So the earth is in a way a representation on a macro level of a human body, of human psyche. And as you know, Allah says in the Quran that I have placed my signs within yourself and on the horizon, meaning are reflected, the realities of your inner spiritual makeup and attributes are then reflected in the outer world. And in fact, on another level, they're seamless because they are the same. But just within consciousness, in limited consciousness and relative consciousness, you recognize them. So coming back to this premise that your body is like the earth, well, your heart is within the body. Well, within the heart of the earth are these hidden gemstones. And those gemstones are dormant within the earth itself. Now, what do? We dig into the earth and we unveil the gemstones, just as though the same way that we unveil the attributes that are lying dormant within us, within our heart and in our being. That gemstones are the outer reflector, meaning, metaphor of what we have within us in terms of the inner gemstones of light, each one having not identity, but an emanation of a certain aspect or name, you may say also, of Allah Azza wa Jal, like compassion and mercy and beauty and power and strength. And you find that in the earth there are stones that throughout history people have discovered that those very same gemstones have this resonance and can transmit or support in reflection in the human psyche and to help to bring out these hidden attributes within ourselves. So it's not like that they're giving us anything, but they are mirroring within us the gemstones that Allah Azza wa Jal had written within us of His lights and attributes. So we have this is what I believe is why on a higher level, if I can speak in that terms, is why all through humanity we're attracted to gemstones and why we love them, because we really love the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. The higher intelligence within us, the higher consciousness within us helps to acknowledge them and resonate with them and find help in reflecting in them and with them. Now, think for a little bit more about it. I'm going to open the mithal a little bit more. Is that think about what you have to do with gemstones. You have to take them out of the earth and expose them to light, right? Before you really see them, right? The quality. So this is who we are too. We are earths, that need to have these elements within us, these attributes within us to be brought into the light of consciousness, to be brought into the light of the sun, sun being the mithal of the light of consciousness on the level of gemstones. So we bring it out from the earth and we look at it, and then what do? We facet them, right? We purify them. We put them through a process that makes the light enter it and refract and reflect that light even in a greater way. So this is another sign for us that gemstones, like the attributes that are within us, need to be polished. and need to be worked on. So it's not just enough to keep them in their rough. In fact, that's what gemstones are called when you pull them out of the ground. They're called rough. And as we are, we're all rough. We're all ruffians, you know, with incredible potential. And so the gemstone, again, reflects that mithal, that metaphor of that which is within us. And then it could be tumbled, meaning they put them in these big tumblers with a type of gravel to polish them, or an expert can come and facet them. And over time, if we now come back to the way it plays out and historically, is that people began to witness, experience on a personal level, and then on general level after a while, the specificity of the use of particular gemstones. So then you get this common collective understanding. And it's not just, New Age gobbledygook, right? It's based in millennia of experience and research and application. Now, coming to the realm of application, you find that throughout history we have these incredible beings in our tradition, particularly, that, like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wore a Yemeni akik ring, which is, I don't mind, I can pass this around, but this is a Yemeni akik that I have. And he had his seal made from the akik. So whenever he would sign a document or write a document, he used to seal it with his akik ring. And later they queried him about, like, what are the uses, what comes from it energetically, spiritually. And it was a natural process. It was nothing, it was, people said, during this moment I was with this stone and something happened, and then you have the same similar experience, and before you know it, people have related it together, and it becomes a meaning attached to a stone. Imam Ali also, he wore 5, some people say 7 different types of stone, and some of them were ruby, akik. He also wore rough diamond, it's called Dhul Najaf, right? Dhul Najaf, which is a clear quartz. He wore a hematite, which is a metallic, iron-based stone, and he wore feroza, which is turquoise, and in some of the traditions they say that he had a ring, or maybe more than one. It's when it comes to traditions, a little hard to narrow it down. That he had all 5 or all 7 in one ring. Am I right? Yeah. So there's that tradition also, and then of course he was asked, because at different times he wore a ring for different purposes. So some of the things that I can share with you about what he wore and how it still relates today. I'll start with like hematite. Hematite is a metallic mineral, and when it shines up, it gets really quite beautiful. It has a glow, shiny glow, and reflects things. But it's iron, right? It's in itself. It says, it has strength. It has fortitude. So he wore hematite when he knew he was going to meet an adversary who was ruthless. And so this became like a reminder, an energetic reminder, of a method, not a method, but a state to face the oppressor, the one who's very immovable, with an iron, ring, right? And so that came down as a tradition from Imam Ali to today. He also wore feroza, and I think we talked about that when we first started. And that, again, same thing Imam Ali said, and also there's some traditions from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he also said that turquoise is a uplifting from a state of, like, say, depression or melancholy. And you think about it. If you look at turquoise, you see that the turquoise color is the color of the sky, and it's so important to think. I mean, naturally speaking, if you think about your own personal experiences, I certainly have had this experience that when you're in traffic and you're engaged with all the, intricacies and diverse energies and anxieties and all that, they're in front of you and you're struggling, and then if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, just look at the sky," right? You look at the sky and immediately the sky doesn't have all this mess inside of it, right? You then relate that messaging from the sky and from the color of the sky resonates within you. So you, all of a sudden, you're removed from that. Now, he also wore other stones depending upon, and colored stones, like, for instance, ruby. He wore ruby many times when he went to war. And rubies were red and blood color almost. And now I can't, and I would never presume to get into the mind of Imam Ali, but it just seems to me that if you have something on you which says there's going to be blood, right, you're going to be really careful about what you do. And you think about the story of that comes to me is from Imam Ali, where in those days when they fought, they used to send their champions out to fight each other before there was massive bloodshed. I'm sure most of you know this story. And Imam Ali was the champion, normally, mostly chosen to come out and face whatever enemy. And so an enemy, this huge man came out, and he was a pretty tough character. And so they challenged Imam Ali, and Imam Ali was given a sword called Dhul-Fiqar. You all know about that, right? Dhul-Fiqar. Dhul-Fiqar is a double-edged sword that the Prophet was made for the Prophet, but he gave it to Ali to wield. But he gave it to him under one condition, is that he never use it out of anger or any egoic way, And this is something is an important message for all of us, that when he fights, he has to fight fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah, not for himself, not for his position, his ego, but directly against oppression and against dhulm, darkness, and all of that. So they fought with each other, and finally Imam Ali got him down, and he was just about to take his head, and the man spit in his face, and he said something, I can't remember what it was, to attack Imam Ali's character. And Imam Ali stopped before he sliced his head, and he stood up and he threw the sword down. And he said, I can't do this, right? He walked away. And the man said to him, "Are you a coward, or you can't kill someone?" He started insulting him. Imam Ali said, "No." He said, "I can't kill you because if I kill you now, I'm killing you for myself, right? And I'm not doing it in the condition that our Prophet had told us to fight." And there's a lot to say about that. I'll just touch on that in a minute afterwards, is that, and the man was so taken aback by Imam Ali's character and by what his Prophet had told him, that he said, and if that's what your Prophet said, and he says, that hit me, I get it, he said, and he turned around and he fought on Imam Ali's side for the rest of the battle. Because he knew this man was genuine. He was for real. And this is an important, element in our daily lives. To be discriminating on what are we struggling for. Is it egoic? Is it being this persona or whatever it is, or are we living by the light and living by the knowledge that we've come here to know, to worship meaning to acknowledge, to imbibe, to resonate with the universal command, to be in concert and in unison with the flow of Allah's grace. So this is what it's about. And gemstones, there's a question that somebody asked me yesterday. They said that their parents or someone, it was you, so there's somebody on this side, said, well, it's shirk, right? Gemstones are shirk, right? You're associating power and attributes with Allah Azza wa Jal. And it's just a misunderstanding of what the basis of. So I'm going to address this question because it came up 3 times yesterday. So be clear, it's not shirk. It is rather an ayat. It's a mirror. It's not, we know that Allahu nur as-samawati wal ard. Allah's light is permeates all the heavens and the earth. Huwa al-awwal wal-akhir wal-dhahir wal-batin. We know from that stance that that's what it is. Allah is forever, beyond time, beyond space, before and after, in front and behind. So when we use stones and when we delve into stones, we're using it as a remedial reflection, sometimes specific to maybe a problem, and or quite wonderfully as an adornment also. I know that particularly the women in this room know more about adornment, than maybe the men do, including myself coming here in jogging shorts, right? So, adornment, but the adornment is an interesting thing. Somebody asked me today about gold. You did, right? Like, why isn't it that men can't wear gold, right? And I've asked, some awliya about this question, and not just the Sharia sort of simplistic meaning, but it happens to be that gold is this. Gold in the metaphor of gold represents a high state of knowledge, of higher consciousness, of purity beyond, it is it's purity. Now, when a man wears it in gold, he's wearing purity. It becomes an egoic display. It's just the way men are, look, I have gold, Now, opposite to that is that women, because they're naturally representative of the names of Allah and pure, in a certain way, like, as you know, a man is Abdurrahman and a woman could be Rahima, or because in the nature of women, it doesn't go to the egoic. Now it can, because women have a male energy in them and men have a female energy, but that's when we're talking about imbalance. But generally speaking, men will find egoic connection and pride in gold, whereas women will just wear it for the sake of beauty and purity, and it may even be connected to wealth, and that's okay. So, all these things have, again, coming back, is all these gemstones and stones and minerals and all that have this connectivity to our psyche and affect our consciousness. Now, also, with the stones that we know that the Prophet Muhammad and Imam Ali and later sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that there was a transmission of that was taken and embraced by the Sufis. And that was because of love. Right? We loved the Prophet, so we wanted to emulate him, but also because we understood the higher value of the medicinal and spiritual and energetic value of stones. Everything in creation has a vibrational quality. There's everything. Even stones that you won't wear, like a rock, or a wood, or everything has in its place in existence. As you may, if you look at the creation as a wave of multiple energetic threads that combine together that create this creation. So everything has its place in the effulgent kun of Allah, the be and it is. So everything has its place. And what we do in life is that we discover and uncover these specific energetic values in all of these. And so that's why there's a common understanding of this, and then there's a very specific personal understanding of this. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. First, I want to tell you a story. Two stories. Am I okay on time? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to just tell you two stories that represent some of what we're talking about here today. And these are things that my personal experiences. I've been in the gem business for over 20 years. And it was I was guided to it by a inspiration from my Sheikh Fadlallah. I won't go into that right now. You can read that in my book. But in 20 years, I've watched people come into my store and go towards the gems, right? And look at them on an individual basis. Now, they come in and they're attracted to certain gemstones. Now, I'm going to just leave that for you as a base here. And now I'll tell the story and then I'll come back to this. One day, a woman came into our shop. I can see immediately she was distraught, agitated. And I looked at the way she was dressed also. She was not dressed with thought. She just threw things on, right? And her hair was partially shaved, as though she was angry and took it out on herself. It was an angry shaving. That was what I saw. And she came into my shop and she started looking around at the gemstones. And looking, and it was like a chaotic thing, right? And then I saw her getting frustrated that she couldn't find anything. And so there were other people in the store and I was tending other people. And I saw her starting to walk towards the door, right? And walk fast. So all of a sudden I just said, she can't leave here without something, right? So I just looked around me and I saw what was the nearest thing to me. And I had this beautiful cluster of what's called Faden quartz. It's a beautiful, almost diamond-like quartz in a cluster like this. It was beautiful, like a lotus flower. And I grabbed it, and as she was walking to the door, I said, wait. And I said, take this, right? This is for you, right? And she looked at it, and she said, no, I can't. I said, take it. It's for you. Now, I want to clearly say here that I had no idea what I was doing. So, it just was that moment, right? I didn't think it through, nothing. I just said, I don't want her to leave with nothing. So I gave it to her. Now, 3 months pass. I don't see her in the store. She doesn't come. And then after about 3 months, she comes into the store and she's dressed immaculately, right? Yeah. And her hair is grown out and she looks all right, and she's smiling. And she sees me in the store and she comes running up to me and she just throws her arms around me and gives me a big hug, right? And you know, I was a little red in the face, probably as I am right now, probably. And you know, mankind is the only creature that blushes, by the way. It's an interesting thing to think about. Anyway, she came in and gave me this hug, and I said, so good to see you. And she had the crystal with her, right? I said, what happened to you? And she said, I've got to tell you the story. She said, I took your crystal and I kept it by my bed for the last 3 months. Within a few weeks of having it, she said that she went to sleep one night and she had a dream. And she dreamt of her father who had passed away. And her father was didn't behave well toward her. And that's not saying the whole thing. He was abusive to her in such a way that it just hurt her so badly. She said she saw him come in this dream and begging her to forgive him. And she said that she thought in her dream, looked out at her life and said, I could never forgive him, right? And then she saw the hurt in herself and the dark energy that she had about this, and that she realized she needed at that moment to give in, and she said, I forgive you. And she said as soon as she said that, she felt like this incredible relief, that came over her. And when she woke up, she had the crystal sitting on her heart, right? I can't explain that other than what I just explained. Something in this, the connectivity of that crystal that she somehow took on in the middle of the night and put it on her chest, created an alchemy of a moment which was not being able, you couldn't calculate it. You couldn't say that was the thing that you need to do. Like when I gave her that crystal, I had no idea. But that's what happened. Now, you can't say, did the crystal do it? No, it's a combination of energies and forces combined with that element there that created this opening to happen. You can't say it didn't, because it did. It was a fact. She woke up with this crystal on her chest. You may argue it had nothing to do with it, that's fine, but I don't think so. So there was a very real example of something energetic value of that crystal. The second story I want to share with you is that I was at a trade show selling gemstones and meeting people in the industry. And I had with me some gemstones that were really rare, and I was very attached to them. I didn't want to sell them. And so I put crazy prices on them so that nobody would buy them. And I thought, some people are smiling here, like maybe that's what you do in your show. Yeah. So I put this crazy price on several of them, and I said, nobody's going to buy it, thankfully. I'll sell the rest of this stuff. So I look across the room, and there's a guy looking at me and looking at the crystal in front of me, the one that I priced up high. And he's like a creature that he he had body additions, I don't know what you call it. Yeah, modifications. And he had a big goat creature on his chest. He was wearing a t-shirt, one of those t-shirts, open sleeves. All kinds of demonic things all over him, And I'm looking at him, okay, that's who he is, mashallah. But he was eyeing my crystal, right? And I was annoyed. So he came forward, right? And I'm seeing him looking at that crystal, and I'm thinking maybe I should hide it now, but it's too late, And he had lots of money because he was dripping in gold, all the stuff we were talking about, and ear things, and then he said, how much is that crystal? And of course, the price was right on it, right? And it was at least 10 times what I would think. And of course, he had money. He said, I want it, right? And I just couldn't say at that moment no. I wanted to say no. But before the no could even come to my lips, he took it in his hand, right? And he held it up like this. And then all of a sudden, I heard this like a crack, right? And the crystal fell out of his hand in 2 pieces. And when he tried to grip it, it sliced his palm to blood. It's not cheap. It was really strange. And I looked at this, and the crystal fell in 2 pieces on my desk. And he was cut with blood. And he said, I don't want that thing. And he, right? And he ran away, right? And I was left with this bit of a mess, you know. So I don't know, how did that happen? You know, now, okay, you can think of things like the temperature in the room was different than the temperature of his hands, and that's probably true. And the way he held it, the pressure this way, pressure that way, you can come up with it. But if you take the whole thing all together, you know, in a holistic way, you realize there was something energetic in that moment that made that crystal break, and it made him cut his hand so that he would drop it. And then the interesting, more interesting, or other interesting thing rather, of all that, is that when it broke perfectly into 2, you know, like 2 butterfly wings. One was a wing and one was it was like that, perfectly symmetric, right? So I had 2. Right, and then I put it back on my table, and I priced them both really high again. So that, you know, and eventually I sold them. Right, years later when I gave up having, because I got attached to so many stones over time. I don't know if you have oils that you love and you don't like to give away, but I got very greedy, and I said, oh, I'm not selling that. I'm keeping that. That's for me and all that. And at one point I just said, okay, I'm not gonna.
Every time I have to like make a blend for somebody.
Right. I know. And that's our jihad, you know, because Allah gave us my precious. Yeah, I was that golem. I have the we have the golem in us. I definitely have the golem in me. You know, golem is a historical creature from the Jewish tradition. Did you know that? Yeah, it's the creature that haunts the villages of the Jews and steals and kills their children, or destroys their crops. It's called the golem. It's a mythical, I don't know how mythical he is really, but he's a mythical, and has a whole tradition in Eastern Europe. It's called the golem.
My thing with the oils is like I want to save them. Like I think that's for me.
Right.
But gems don't oxidize. At least I don't think. Or oils do. So after a period of time, you can't really use them anymore. So
You're right.
I learned not to do that, you know? Because I'm like, oh, I can't use them anymore. They've oxidized, you know? I don't know.
That's an interesting, actually it's an interesting observation. Gems, they don't oxidize, but they do change. You know, they do. So I'll give you I'll come right back. Let me just finish this thought, because Sister Sarah mentioned it. And this is something that a lot of people don't know. A quartz crystal, when you remove it from the ground, it still grows. It's still, because it's alive. It grows, yeah. It's still growing. Now, it'll take you about 2 million years to watch the growth, right? You don't see it in any given moment. But the way crystals grow, underneath it's an atomic molecular structure, crystalline lattice. And the way crystals grow is it absorbs the oxygen, minerals, and whatever it's in its environment to create the next layer of crystallization, right? So it continues to grow outside. But you won't notice it, of course, because a quartz crystal took 50 million years to grow. And there's some amazing things about quartz crystals. There's things called hydroquartz, which are sought after all over the world. It's when imagine that you have a quartz that's sitting on a mountainside, and it rains, and rains fall into the earth, and a drop of it bubbles on an open area where the quartz is living. Within that night or day, a one atomic measure of crystallization seals the drop into the crystal. It's incredible. And then 50 million years later, some, buddy with a shovel and finds it and picks it up and then moves the crystal, and inside there's a drop of water from 50 million years ago that got caught and sealed inside of a crystal. And a lot of scientific people like to find these because then they can tell what the Earth was like 50 million years ago. But again, if you look at it from an energetic perspective, here you have this incredible thing which is hard, almost as it's not quite diamond, but it's a very hard substance. There's a thing called the Mohs hardness scale. That's something you may want to look up. It's called the Mohs hardness. Everything in gemstones it registers on the Mohs hardness scale. So some things are very soft, like jade and turquoise, fluorite, and some things are extremely hard, like diamond and Faden quartz and Herkimer diamonds, which are from Herkimer, New York, and many other places. So you have 8 plus, and then you have 2, 3, 4, 5 on one end. But here, an amazing thing, and this is the quartz is the only thing that does it. Here's something that's so hard, right? Hard, but it takes in the softness of the soft, right? So look, these are ayat. These are things. It's the yin and the yang together. It is the Allah's lutf in His majestic, in His jalal. It's His jamal and His jalal. It's an amazing thing. That's why gemstones have so much to give in terms of teaching. If you get sensitive to them and you look into them and you utilize them. Now, I want to just talk a little bit about useful